The Ukrainian army has exposed another lie of the occupying Russian forces. On September 3, Russian telegram channels, citing military sources, reported that Russian troops had taken full control of the city of Kupyansk in the Kharkiv region. Footage was also released showing Russian soldiers allegedly raising the Russian flag in the city. However, the Ukrainian armed forces published footage refuting this claim. As the released video shows, several Russian soldiers in civilian clothing entered the city and attempted to plant the flag on houses, but they were eliminated by munitions dropped from a drone, and the flag was seized. Ukrainian aerial reconnaissance units continue to target the dugouts and trenches where Russian occupation troops are stationed. Although the occupiers tried to hide in the dugouts from drones, this did not save them. Strikes by kamikaze drones and munitions dropped from drones caused the dugouts to explode, resulting in the complete elimination of the occupiers inside. Ukrainian fighters destroyed a boat belonging to the Russian Black Sea Fleet that was trying to deliver soldiers from the airborne troops to the Tendrov Island in the Black Sea in the Kherson region. Drones belonging to the Ukrainian naval forces launched a series of strikes on the boat approaching the island. As a result, 7 paratroopers were killed and 4 were wounded. Other Russian soldiers on the island were also targeted by the drones. As a result, there were deaths and injuries among them. Ukrainian drones also targeted a boat with occupying soldiers on one of the islands located on the Dnieper River in the Kherson region. As a result of the strike by a kamikaze drone, the boat exploded, and the Russian soldiers on it were killed.
Russia's fuel crisis has also affected the Kremlin-occupied territories of Ukraine. In the captured part of Luhansk Oblast, all AI-92 and AI-95 gasoline has disappeared from gas stations. Russian propaganda media and public pages write about this, Dialogue.ua reports. The occupation administration claims that the lack of gasoline is due to supply disruptions and increased consumer demand for fuel observed over the past 2 weeks. Propagandists confirm that for 2 weeks, there was a shortage of gasoline at local gas stations. You couldn't fill up everywhere and not always. It is reported that fuel was often sold only to legal entities with coupons. The locals say that somewhere you can still find 95th grade, but they sell no more than 20 litres per customer, the propagandists say. The internet is flooded with photos and videos showing huge queues at gas stations where there is still fuel. At other gas stations, there is no gasoline at all. Propagandists add that fuel shortages are also observed in the occupied part of Donetsk region. The lack of fuel at gas stations began to be observed after another series of successful attacks by Ukraine on Russian oil refineries. Russians complain about kilometer-long queues at gas stations, empty pumps, and record prices. In August, Ukraine struck at least 10 blows at Russian oil refineries. According to experts, about 17% of the capacity was damaged. This is 1.1 million barrels per day. Deep processing units were hit, the repair of which takes months. As a result, many regions, from the Far East to occupied Crimea, were left without their usual gasoline. Russians complain about hours-long queues at gas stations. Videos of empty pumps and complaints from motorists are circulating on social networks. The price of A95 gasoline on the wholesale market has reached a record 82,300 rubles per ton. This is almost 54% more than at the beginning of the year. As The Guardian notes, Russia continues to export oil to China and India, but its oil refining industry is unprepared for massive attacks. Repairs are complicated by Western sanctions. Without modern technology, the restoration of refineries is slow. Analysts admit that Russia has no real fuel reserves for the domestic market, and each new blow from Ukraine intensifies the crisis. The situation is particularly dire in Crimea. Shut down airports have forced tourists to drive, further exacerbating fuel shortages. Kremlin officials are calling for understanding, but even they acknowledge that the restrictions could last for months.